All right, today we're going to be talking about the Black Monday head coach firings. There's been a lot of shocking and expected firings, and we're going to discuss all of them. Without further ado, we'll get the biggest one out of the way. Weaver, Arthur Smith has finally been fired from the Atlanta Falcons. We can all celebrate.
This is a time to pop the champagne. This is a celebration that should be happening across the United States and specifically in the city of Atlanta. This has been a long time coming. If I was a diehard Falcons fan, I would have cried tears of joy. I'd have sat over there and smoked a whole pack of cigars, drank all the champagne. I mean, this is a party. I am like confetti, the confetti, snowmen, angels. I mean, this is just wild, dude. I have been calling for this for the last 2 years. He is the worst head coach that I have ever seen. Well, no, Urban Meyer is pretty bad. He was terrible, though. Arthur Smith was very, very, very bad. I've never seen a coach have such talent and not use it. It was an embarrassment to the sport. I'm so glad he's done. I mean, this is just awesome. The city of Atlanta, the Falcons organization deserve better than that. And the time has come. And this is a joyous time.
It is.
I get though.
Yeah, it should have. Me and Joel gave him the benefit of the doubt when the Falcons were winning, and then the Falcons stopped winning, and his decision making became more and more questionable, especially as this year went on. I can't remember what ESPN reporter made this comparison, but he said it was like if the Splash Brothers. No, he said if the 2016 Warriors ran their offense through Andrew Bogut and Festus Ezeli instead of the Splash Brothers.
That's exactly what it was.
Who were arguably the two best offensive players in the NBA that year. Yeah, it was. I understand having an identity in a certain brand of football, but it doesn't.
So why are you drafting Kyle Pitts and Drake London?
Well, in fairness, he doesn't control the players that get drafted, but also there's a reason the organization is drafting these players.
Yeah.
And that's not what you want to see out of them. And it didn't even work. He had 3 straight 7-10 seasons. The Falcons were never true contenders to do anything in any of these years. So I don't know why they stuck with him for so long.
I think he should have been gone well before this year, to be honest with you.
Fantasy owners rejoice. Falcons fans, like you said, pop the champagne. Probably the happiest they've been since Super Bowl 51, if we're being full on honest.
Like I'm just imagining the what's that song? Well, I mean, I guess you could use the Earth, Wind, and Fire's September. That's the type of party that we're having right now that he is out of Atlanta.
Yeah, it was.
We are going to boogie the night away.
Yeah, it was a long time coming. I'm happy it's been done. Weaver's ecstatic it's been done.
I yelled when I got the alert. I was like, yes!
They also fired him at 12:01 a.m. That is hilarious to me.
Oh no! Dude,
yes, if you want to see Weaver's reaction, you can check it out on his Twitter. D'Angelo Vickers had a pretty
go follow me on Twitter. I've got you will see a string of Arthur Smith tweets, about 10 straight maybe.
Let me find some of these just to show everybody.
I haven't tweeted in a while, man. It's been a couple days here. I've been slacking on this account. What was the last thing I even said? I said, "Oh, I hope Kyle McCord saw this game."
These are all about Arthur Smith.
This has been a long time coming, dude, and I was thrilled. I mean, honestly, I don't know what the Falcons were doing keeping this guy for so long. I mean, he was just objectively horrible, and they just kept him. I mean, I understand you. I mean, you got to give your guys some time, but when you are that bad, oh my gosh, why did they even hire him? I mean, this was a disaster. This was an absolute disaster. He was terrible. He set that franchise back. He was awful, really bad. But this now paves the way for the Lions offensive coordinator. If that is the case, there are plenty of good coaches that are in the carousel right now, if you will. And I think there's some options for them to go at the quarterback position. And I think they can get things turned around pretty quickly because they have some very, very good offensive talent, that Arthur Smith just didn't use. But it's still there for another good coach to come in and use the crap out of. And I'm sure that's what's going to happen. And we'll see him get a quarterback, whether it's Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields would be awesome. But even if they draft somebody, either way, they get a quarterback in there, they're going to have a good offense as long as they don't hire another moron.
Yeah. This is what the Atlanta Falcons fans are feeling like after that news. The war is now.
I didn't hear a single part of that.
You haven't heard that?
No, I didn't hear what you played.
It said "War is over."
Oh, that song.
John Lennon
playing.
I didn't hear anything. I just heard static noise.
That's what I heard.
I didn't hear anything.
The war is finally over.
This is how the Falcons fans are feeling. Just radio static.
That was them the entire tenure of Arthur Smith.
Yes. But Arthur Smith is now not going to be able to stick it to fantasy owners and not use his players just because he wanted to stick it to fantasy people.
Because he's a moron.
It's sad when Tyler Algier has more rushing yards his rookie year than Bijan Robinson does.
Yeah, that's really bad. It's also sad when Kyle Pitts has scored 2 touchdowns his whole career, and he's been in the league 4 years now. So
yeah,
3. My bad.
We can all agree that the last 3 first-round picks for the Falcons have been hits. They just haven't been utilized properly, and so now with Arthur Smith gone. Hopefully the Falcons bring in an offensive-minded head coach that can really tap into the potential of those guys. But they also need a new quarterback because Desmond Ridder is awful. He is terrible.
He doesn't even have to be an offensive-minded coach. He just has to be a competent human being.
Yeah. But an offensive head coach would help out a lot.
Yeah.
But also, they haven't scheduled an interview for any coaches yet. The Falcons haven't.
I thought I heard that they had interest in Brian Callahan, or was that a different team?
That was the Chargers, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, somebody wanted to talk to Brian Callahan, which I don't really know. I mean, he can't be worse than Arthur Smith.
Yeah, the Falcons have not scheduled a meeting with any head coach yet, so that's interesting.
I mean, I don't know if if we're talking head coach, I think Arthur Smith might be worse than Brandon Staley, honestly. At least Brandon Staley won a pretty good amount of games and went to the playoffs once.
Not due to his coaching ability.
Significantly better than the
Falcons. One team had Justin Herbert, the other team had Desmond Ridder.
But both of these coaches are very bad coaches.
And the division that the Falcons are in, they very easily should have probably won the division. But
every year they should have won the division. But Arthur Smith, oh my gosh, he is so bad.
Yeah, earlier they were like, well, we're not going to fire him until there's a monumental collapse, and the monumental collapse happened.
Yeah, I was
his last game. What was it?
48-17.
48-17.
I was less than thrilled when I heard that news that the Falcons said they weren't going to fire him, barring a collapse. I was like, "Are you kidding me? This is just franchise full of very challenged people. But obviously that collapse happened. So thank goodness.
Yep. So hopefully they get a guy that utilizes their players correctly, and the Falcons could be a very fun team to watch.
Yeah, man, it can't get any worse.
That's true.
We've already hit rock bottom.
Yeah. All right. Another coach that got fired was Ron Rivera from the Commanders. That was expected by himself. He literally said before the game he expects to be fired after the weekend, which I thought was pretty funny. But yeah, his tenure in Washington was not great. And yeah, Washington is looking for another head coach again.
Ron Rivera has always been an overrated head coach.
Yeah,
his regular season record, it's 102, 103, and 2, which doesn't sound that terrible until you remember he had a 15-1 season with the Panthers when Cam Newton won MVP. And outside of Cam Newton's peak, which was only like 2-3 years, he has been a mediocre head coach at best. And his tenure in Washington wasn't great. He never had a winning season. He led them to the playoffs during the COVID year when the football team went 7-9 in that abysmal NFC East. Yeah, he's not. I don't think he's a great head coach. His defenses, for being a defensive guy, have not been fantastic ever, really. Yeah, season by season, he, in a 5-year stretch with the Panthers, he went 12-4, 7-8-1, 15-1, 6-10, and 11-5. If you take out those years, he's got just one 8+ win season under his belt. Like, I don't think he gets it done at the level that you need to in this league. I mean, the Commanders were terrible this year. That was that was one of the picks that we all hit on, is the Commanders being absolutely awful from start to finish.
They were so bad.
Yeah, like you said, he expected to get fired. He deserved to get fired. I think the Commanders are going to go full rebuild mode. I think they have to. They don't, outside of Terry McLaurin, they don't really have anything. I mean, they traded Chase Young to the Niners in the middle of the year. That was them waving the white flag.
Yeah, that was.
They now with the second overall pick.
Yeah. I just love how he literally said before the game, "I expect to be fired."
Yeah, that was
like what?
And then they lost 38-10. What did you expect was going to happen after you said that? Like you've already checked out.
I mean, yeah. Like, did he even bother coaching that last game at that point? Like,
I don't know.
Well, Commanders fans are happy that they lost because now they can get Drake May.
That's true.
So,
or Caleb Williams.
Yeah, could be Caleb Williams. One of those two.
Board falls, I guess. I mean, if the Bears do it depends, honestly. The Bears are in an interesting spot. Yeah. There are two things that I would be fine with the Bears doing. One thing I would not be fine with them doing. Well, that's not what we're talking about today.
We'll be talking about that probably all offseason.
Yeah. We'll get there.
But yeah, we all knew this was coming. The Commanders have been bad for a while now. And like you said, Nick, with them trading Chase Young, that was kind of them waving the white flag. They hold the second overall pick now, so they'll be bringing in a new coach and a new quarterback, hopefully, to start the new regime in Washington. They thought Sam Howell was their guy, and he looked like their guy for a couple of weeks, and then he started averaging like 3 interceptions a game. And
but like on top of that, their offensive line was bad at a historical measure.
Yes. I'm pretty sure I'm going to look and see how many times Sam Howell got sacked this year, but it was
an ungodly number. Like, the only offensive line that I've ever seen in my life that may be worse is the Bengals Super Bowl line.
In 17 games, Sam Howell got sacked 65 times.
Yeah, that's
That
like
might be worse than the Bengals line.
4 a game? About a little less than 4 a game?
Yeah.
That might actually be worse than the Bengals line.
It has to be.
I mean, or the Giants line this year was bad too. I think Burrow was sacked 70 times, but they also played 21 games.
Yeah. So obviously they're going to need to fix that before they get Caleb Williams or Drake May in there, because that's not going to be good. But
yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter what quarterback you get in there. You got to have somebody to protect them. You can have Joe Montana in there, and it's not going to do much if you don't have an offensive line.
yeah. But Ron Rivera getting fired is a good step for them. They got Eric Bieniemy at OC, who they could possibly elevate.
Yeah.
There have been Bill Belichick rumors with them and a couple other guys. So, but I feel like Washington's not that bad of a job. I mean, you got some guys on. You got Terry, Brian Robinson. You have the second overall pick.
Yeah,
I don't that defense and the offensive line.
I don't know if it's me, just like considering all of the other jobs that are available this year, Washington would not be particularly high on my list.
Well, yeah, but it's not the worst one.
No, it's not.
There's a lot of really good jobs.
The Panthers is the worst job. The Washington's okay. They need to rebrand. If Washington rebranded back to the Redskins, then I think the job would be higher.
Well, they're kind of how like I guess a little worse version of like the Texans, where you have the number 2 pick, you can draft your quarterback, and then you get a head coach with them too. Granted, the Texans had nailed a couple of their picks before that.
Yeah, I mean, you might be right. Because
our biggest thing last year was the Texans is like a clean slate.
But on the same hand, like going into last offseason, like we were saying the same. Like we were saying, oh, the Texans their franchise is horrible. I mean, this is just the worst job that anybody can imagine, and now they're hosting a playoff game the very next year. So, I mean, Washington, they're in a good position to just have like you said, a clean slate, a restart. I wouldn't mind seeing Eric Bieniemy get elevated there. I think Ron Rivera it was almost kind of delayed, honestly. I mean, I just don't think he's really that great of a coach, honestly. I mean, I don't really know if he's really done anything notable. I mean, the Washington's been horrible of recent. I think it was a smart firing. They got some opportunities for sure to get it this pretty much is a clean slate team. I mean, because like Nick said, they pretty much only have Terry McLaurin. I mean, I don't.
Not Brian Robinson too.
Yeah,
I mean, if one of your assets is a draft pick,
I don't know.
If one of your assets is a future draft pick, you don't really have much offering.
No, they don't.
So,
yeah. Interesting situation in Washington, though. But I'm more interested to see what Los Angeles does. The Chargers, I think that could be a really good position.
Yeah, if they can get a guy that can
that's
bring the most out of Justin Herbert.
That is probably the best. That's got to be the best position. That's got to be the best coaching job on the market right now.
By far.
They've got the pieces. The only issue with Los Angeles is the amount of cap money. They're just in such a horrible cap position.
Well,
they've got assets that they've got the franchise quarterback. They've got all the assets they need on the team. Issue is those assets are aging and they don't have any money.
Yeah,
but they're still in a good. This is the best position by far.
Well, yeah, the Chargers roster is a playoff caliber roster. They just need to put it all together.
For sure. But I mean, my issue is it might not be a playoff roster for 5 more years.
Yeah.
But they have draft picks, though. That's one thing. The Chargers really haven't been stupid with draft picks. Like they haven't willy-nilly traded their picks. The Chargers still have all their draft picks. It's just they don't really have a lot of money.
Yeah,
so that's a fixable issue.
This year?
Huh?
Is it 5th or 6th pick?
5, I think.
5?
Yeah.
because
So they've got a lot of – I mean, the Chargers have a lot of good stuff. It's just like the team they currently have won't be awesome in 5 years because they're all getting into their 30s.
Yeah, they got to either make the playoffs now or it's going to be like a 5-year rebuild.
Yeah.
To get them back to where they were.
Yeah, but I mean, even still, I think the Chargers are in a really good position because, like I just said, like 3 times, like they still have all their draft capital, and that's really where you build your team. You don't want to build your team through free agency; you want to build it through the draft.
Yeah, they just have to hope they hit on their first round pick better than they did last year.
Yeah, for sure. Who did they even pick last year?
Quentin Johnston.
Oh yeah, gosh, that
was Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison.
Yeah, that was
bad.
That was pretty bad. I'm pretty sure when we did our mock drafts, I had them taking Zay Flowers. No, I had them taking the USC guy, Addison. I had them taking Jordan Addison.
Yeah, would have been better than Quentin Johnson.
A lot better.
They should have did that. They really should have.
Yeah. Well, they're going to need a receiver soon because Palmer, Keenan Allen, and I think Mike Williams are all up. All of their contracts are up in the next year or two.
And Keenan Allen is in his low 30s, and Mike Williams is going to be going into 30. Josh Palmer is like the youngest player on, like the youngest starting receiver on that team.
Yeah. Plus, Mike Williams has like a season-ending injury like every other year.
So. Exactly. Like I think the Chargers had the right idea in selecting a receiver, but they just blew it on the one they took. Yeah. The wrong one. Like they need a receiver, they just took the wrong one.
Yeah. Well, they could draft another one in Malik Neighbors, or they can draft I've seen Brock Bowers or an offensive lineman. They got multiple things they can do with that 5th pick. So that'll be
good. Offensive line is never a bad way to go, especially because I don't think the Chargers offensive line was very good this year. However, I really think they could probably go O-line this year. I mean, I was going to say, I think wide receiver is their biggest need, but they're going to have the guys that they have. Like, they're still going to have these guys this fall. So they might be able to, like, delay picking a receiver for one more year and go with, like, an offense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Unless there's, like, a Marvin Harrison drops to him, which won't happen. But, like, Malik Neighbors is really good, too. I don't know. That's an interesting one. The Chargers is a really good one.
Yeah. All right. One of the most shocking firings of the slate was Mike Vrabel getting fired as the Titans head coach. That caught a lot of people off guard. He just win Coach of the Year like 2 or 3 years ago.
He won Coach of the Year
the year the Bengals went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
2 years ago, and that
was terrible. No, I wasn't like. There's only been like 1 or 2 like coach firings so far this year that I've been like, oh, that's like really shocking, you know. Mike Vrabel was not one of them. I wasn't shocked. I don't know if this was really a smart decision or not. I mean, the Titans were bad this year, and last year they weren't really great either. But I mean, the year before that, they were the 1 seed. I don't know. I mean, I don't think he was like doing anything great with this franchise, but he also wasn't like tanking them. I don't think. Like, I think maybe if you give him a little bit more time and just kind of see, I don't know. I don't hate the firing, but I also wouldn't have hated if they had kept him.
I think that it signifies a different direction the Titans want to go. I think at first it's kind of like, what? Why are you firing? He's like a good head coach. But then once you dive a little bit deeper, it's like, okay, the Titans haven't been great for a year and a half now. They're not really in a great spot with draft picks. Their best offensive players are getting old in Derrick Henry, DeAndre Hopkins.
It's just time to rebuild.
Yeah, they might have a quarterback in Will Levis. I think the jury's still out on him. But I just think it's time for a new era in Tennessee, and they just wanted to wipe the slate clean, so to speak. Mike Vrabel's still a really good head coach. Wherever he goes, he has the potential to turn that franchise around in a year or two. I actually think he would be a great fit in Atlanta if he wants to stay as a head coach in the NFL, because like Atlanta's a team that wants to primarily run the ball. They want to be more of a ground and pound team. and they have the ability to do that. But also, Mike Vrabel knows how to use his playmakers when needed. And they've got Drake London, they've got Tyler Algier, they've got Kyle Pitts. I think he would be a great fit in Atlanta. I'm just happy he's not in our division anymore. To be full on honest with you,
I'll tell you. Oh, I was just gonna say, I'll tell you one team. This is an interesting thought to think about. So just take a second to think about it. But he could go to the college ranks.
Then coach Ohio State.
Yeah.
If they fire Ryan Day,
that would be an interesting idea to look at.
I don't understand why a quality head coach would go back to college. A quality head coach would go back to college when he can very clearly still get a job in the NFL.
I mean, you've seen people do that. I mean,
I know Jim Harbaugh did it.
Jim Harbaugh is the prime example. He went to the Super Bowl with the 49ers and he went back to college, and unfortunately he won a national championship. But like, you've seen coaches do that.
Yeah, I think Mike Vrabel, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I don't think Ohio State's going to fire Ryan Day this offseason.
They won't do it this offseason.
Mike Vrabel will be snatched up before next offseason. I can guarantee you.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying I think it would be really interesting though. And I know we're not talking about Ohio State, but just real quick, there's a lot of options out there right now. Just in the college ranks, you've got the Oregon guy. I've seen Florida State's guy, maybe. And then in NFL, obviously, you got Mike Vrabel. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. The problem with college is you have to buy those people out, and it gets very expensive. That's what they have to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wasn't like overly shocked by Vrabel getting fired, but I don't think the Titans not being good is necessarily his fault.
It's not.
I think it's the roster construction. Really, since they traded AJ Brown, they've been terrible.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the fingers have to be pointed at the front office. You traded AJ Brown, who immediately found success in Philadelphia, and then the guy you drafted to be the next him has been very underwhelming in Traylon Burks. And your best player is a 30-year-old running back. Granted, Derrick Henry is one of the best running backs, but he's no longer going to be there after this year. He basically said after this last game that he's not coming back. So I don't hate the move. I guess just a fresh face, just to get some sort of change in there. But I don't think Vrabel. I don't think it was his fault. If you ask any player, they love Mike Vrabel as a coach, as a person. He really connects well with the players, and players really love playing for him. And like in that game against Jacksonville, it was a meaningless game, and they played hard to spoil them, and they won. So I think he'll have a job fairly quickly. I think he could go. The Falcons could be cool. I think a lot of people are saying he could go to the Patriots if they get rid of Belichick.
That would be another good one.
I think he if they get rid of Belichick, I think he more than likely becomes the Patriots' next head coach, which would be really good for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, the state of the Titans team is kind of how it's been the last couple of years. It's not good, but they do have a top 10 pick, so they can kind of fix that. They potentially have their guy at quarterback in Will Levis. He showed some flashes this year, but we'll see how he is long term. You're losing Derrick Henry, who's a major part of that offense. And then you really the offensive line is atrocious. The wide receiver room is pretty bad. There's a couple pieces on that defense, but there's not really a whole lot in Tennessee. Mike Vrabel was one of the few bright spots on that team, but so the Tennessee situation is an interesting one, to say the least. But yeah, Vrabel is going to get a coach. He's going to get a head coaching spot fairly quickly. And I don't know who the Titans are looking at, but that'll be an interesting situation.
Yeah, I think this one might be like one of the most interesting like firings. You know, like I said, I wasn't shocked by it, but it was kind of one of those where it's like that's a bit of a head scratcher, if you will, because it's almost like, I mean, you almost like get this sense of like, are the Titans like being like, are they just making a rash decision here? You know, it's like, oh, everyone else is firing their coach. We sucked this year. We'll just fire him too. You know what I'm saying? Like, it almost kind of had that vibe.
Yeah, like they were just making a move just to make a move.
Yeah, yeah. And it was like, I don't necessarily think this was a great move because I agree with Evan. Dude hasn't had a good roster since the last time they went to the playoffs, honestly. Like as soon as they let go of AJ Brown, they went downhill very quickly and he went uphill very quickly. So it's like, I don't really think that's all his fault because also, if you look at it, it's like, oh, you know, Mike Vrabel is a pound it, run the ball type of guy. That's true. But if you watch the game where the Titans played the Bengals in the playoffs, AJ Brown had a day against the Bengals in the playoffs that year. Like they still lost, but AJ Brown was a problem for the Bengals. So like, I don't know. I don't know if them being terrible was completely his fault. I wasn't shocked by it, but I don't know if this was a super smart thing for the Titans.
Yeah, we'll see how it pans out for them, but it is an interesting situation.
Yeah.
Another shocking one was Pete Carroll got fired. Seattle. I mean, he was one of the longest tenured head coaches in the NFL. The Seahawks weren't outstanding this year, but they were in playoff contention till like the last day, I'm pretty sure. So this one was probably the most surprising, I would say.
Yeah, this is the one that I was really surprised about. Like I just said that there was like one or two that had me really. This was the one that had me really surprised. I don't know why they did this. I mean, I'm not a Seahawks fan, so I might be missing something, but I don't know why they fired him.
I don't think the Seahawks fired him. I think it was more of like they asked him if he would step down, and Pete Carroll was like, "Yeah, I'm 72." Like.
Well, yeah. See, that's kind of
what he said. He still wants to coach.
Yeah, he said that he's moving into an advisory role with the organization.
Yeah, so it's like when I saw that, like my first like thought was, oh, he might not have got fired. It may have been more of like a, hey, I'm 73 years old. I'd like to step down as being the head coach, but I still want to be involved. You know, that's kind of like what I thought it was. I don't know. I hope that's what it was because I don't think they should have fired him. If they fired him, that's questionable.
Yeah. It's that I saw this. I was like, is this real? And then I saw that Schefter tweeted it. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, that one's a bit out there.
Yeah, I don't
like
know
this one at all.
I'm not quite sure why the Seahawks went this direction. Unless they sense a rebuild on the horizon, which, I mean, they're lucky to even be in this position with Geno Smith.
Great coach, man.
Yeah. So we'll see what they do from here. But, I mean, Pete Carroll is a legend of the game at the NFL level, Hall of Fame head coach, won a Super Bowl, made another one.
Mm-hmm.
He's should have won that one. We won't get into it, though.
He's one of the best head coaches of our time.
Yeah, sure. He's one of the best head coaches of the 2010s for sure.
For sure.
And yeah, I mean, him and Russell Wilson were a dynamic duo there for a decade in Seattle. Gave the Seahawks the best period their franchise has ever seen.
Yeah.
Like we said, Hall of Fame head coach. I'll be interested to see what he does, if he stays with Seattle or if he thinks he's still got something left in the tank in terms of a head coaching opportunity.
Really
interesting. Shocking move for sure.
I didn't like this one personally, but it is going to be really interesting to see where both parties move from here on out.
Yeah. Well, I don't know exactly if it was more like he was stepping down or if it was them actually firing them. I don't know the full details of that. But from what he said in the press conference, I got the impression that he still wanted to be a coach and still wanted to coach. So I don't really know. But in this article that I have pulled up says a name to watch is Dan Quinn.
Cowboys defensive coordinator, former head coach.
Yeah, he was the head coach of the Falcons in Super Bowl 51, wasn't he?
Yep.
And he was an assistant under Pete Carroll.
Huh.
But I mean, that Cowboys defense has been really good since he's been there, so he'll probably get some looks.
Yeah, that's true, I guess.
But yeah, the Seahawks are in kind of a weird situation because they have a lot of young talent. But like they gave Geno Smith that big contract after his year last year, and he was mediocre to say the least, probably this year. You still have DK and JSN who are good young receivers, but you got like Tyler Lockett who's older in that defense who had some really good breakout players this year. And they almost made the playoffs. They were on the cusp of making the playoffs. But I still wouldn't really put them at like a true playoff contender category.
No, I wouldn't.
So I feel like they're kind of in that kind of mediocre, like good, not great teams where they'll probably finish above 500 majority of the years, but I wouldn't peg them as a team that can really make a playoff run. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do and if what Pete Carroll does, if he continues to coach. He is 72, so I wouldn't be surprised if he just kind of hangs it up, or if he takes more of an advisory role with the organization. So it'll be interesting. But I was not expecting that.
No, that one was a little bit out there.
So here's some of the potential candidates that have been floated around for majority of places. Lions OC Ben Johnson's been probably the hottest name for me of the Commanders. The Ravens defensive coordinator Mike McDonald, Brian Callahan has been in there a lot. Texans OC Bobby Slowick has been mentioned a couple times. Ejiro Evero is the Panthers DC. He's been there in some talks. Obviously Dan Quinn. But I think Brian Johnson's probably the biggest name. He's the one I've heard the most, at least. And then obviously we've heard Brian Callahan a couple times and stuff. So there's a solid amount, I think, of and then obviously you still have like Vrabel who will get a job, and we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm sure Arthur Smith will probably land somewhere as like a coordinator.
See if Bill Belichick ends up.
Yeah, we'll see if
Belichick to the Patriots.
Yeah, which I don't know for sure if that's gonna happen or not. Well, and then there's still playoffs too, so there could potentially be some head coaching firings after the playoffs. Like if the Eagles lose early, I wouldn't be shocked if they fire Sirianni.
All right, you got to change to 7.
It's the Philadelphia.
You've got to stop this.
They will not fire Nick Sirianni.
When you said that in the last podcast, I thought you were joking.
Yeah, I thought you were joking.
Dude, no, they're not going to fire Sirianni.
You know Philadelphia fans?
Philadelphia fans might be calling for his head because they're idiots, but the Eagles are not going to fire Nick Sirianni a year after they let him be
Super Bowl, and they had a good year this year.
I'm not saying they should fire him. I'm just saying, knowing Philly fans, they'll want to fire him.
How long has he been there? Like 2 years?
Yeah.
It's his third year, I believe.
They're not getting rid of him.
I wasn't saying they were going to.
Dude, if they fired Sirianni, that would be like one of the worst firings in the history of the NFL. That would be really bad.
Philly fans are impatient. But the playoffs could bring some firings. I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that one, but yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much about it.
For the coaching carousel.
Yeah.
It's going to be a really interesting one. I'm actually really excited to see where all this goes. Where everybody ends up, and there's a lot of firings, a lot of people that are in suggestions, a lot of people that are on the hot seat. It's going to be interesting to see where we land this coming fall. Yep.
All right. Should we talk about some of the Week 18 games?
Yeah, let's talk about some of the Week 18 games.
I think we should keep this one quick.
Yeah. Nick, we'll start with your Colts. They fumbled the bag literally against the Texans and lost 23-19. That would drop the pass. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that was a brutal way to end the season. And after Tyler Goodson dropped that pass, I mean, you go to Twitter and everyone's just calling him a bum, yada yada yada. Here's my 2 cents on this. First, I'll start with the play call. I actually do not hate the play call in hindsight. Jonathan Taylor was very clearly hurt. He had a heel injury in the second half of that game, came back in the fourth quarter, and was not 100%. You can see it on his run. So I understand not having him in the game on a 4th and 1. When you just tried to pick it up with him on a 3rd and 2 and he couldn't get it. And if you have Jonathan Taylor in the backfield with the exact same play call, I can guarantee you there's going to be a linebacker man marking him the whole way. What I don't understand is why Zach Moss wasn't in the game instead of Tyler Goodson, unless he just is not a receiving back at all. But, I mean, the play call was there. He was wide open. There wasn't a Texan within 5 yards of him. They just didn't execute. Minshew did not throw a great pass, but it hit Goodson in the hands, and he should haul that in. But regardless on how the game ended, it was still a very successful season, all things considered. I would say that the Colts are the only team that didn't make the playoffs that can feel all right with how their season went. Because of all the injuries, not all the injuries, but them losing their starting quarterback, and this was supposed to be a rebuilding year for them. When Anthony Richardson did play, he looked like a stud. And it's an important offseason coming up for them. They've got the likes of Michael Pittman Jr., who should be re-signed. They've got Kenny Moore, Julian Blackmon, Grover Stewart, a couple other guys they got to make decisions on. But, I mean, they've got the 7th most cap space in the NFL, even disregarding those guys. So if they want to sign a corner or another receiver, they can do whatever they need to. This is the first time I've been excited about the immediate future of this team in about 5 years. So, yeah, it's exciting to see where they go from there. But congrats to the Texans. What C.J. Stroud and DeMeco Ryans have done has been nothing short of remarkable this season. Obviously, first-year head coach, first-year quarterback, 2nd overall pick, taking them to a playoffs, winning the division, hosting a playoff game in 1 year is nothing short of incredible. So, yeah, tough way to go out, but still happy with the season nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, I would say they overperformed this year. So, I mean, it's tough way to end the season, but I mean, I don't think they were going to do anything in the playoffs anyways.
Oh, no, they absolutely weren't. They were not. No chance.
Yeah, but
depending on who they played, they might have won one game, maybe. If they played like the Chiefs or something, they could have beat them, I think. But
yeah, not the Browns though.
I mean, they should have beat them in the regular season, but we don't have to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, this was just a Nico Collins breakout game. I mean, he had almost 200 yards and a touchdown. The Colts literally could not stop him.
Yeah, it was bad.
But also, I mean, Jonathan Taylor had 188 yards and a touchdown on the ground as well, so the Texans couldn't really stop him. But it was a great game, and obviously sucks for Colts fans that it was in their hands potentially, and they couldn't get it done. But like you said, I think you guys overachieved, exceeded expectations, and it's a good building block for the future. Once you get Anthony Richardson back, it should be pretty good. I mean, you now know that Michael Pittman could be a wide receiver 1.
Absolutely.
Josh Downs played pretty well, and then you got a 2-headed monster with Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor. Yeah, I mean,
you got a good little football team.
I felt like you probably could have. I know Taylor was banged up, but I felt like they weren't stopping him. I felt like you probably could have just handed him the ball off and probably picked up the first down. But I mean, the guy was wide open, so he probably should have caught it.
Yeah, he was not. There wasn't a text. He would have minimum got the first down.
Yeah.
I don't think we can blame the play calling there. I think that's just a guy dropping a pass.
Yeah, poor excuse. The throw was not great. Like,
Yeah.
Gardner Minshew was not completely
It was
blamed.
behind him.
Yeah.
So
It happens. That's, sometimes the ball just doesn't roll your way, man.
yeah. Sticking in the AFC South, the Titans beat the Jags 28-20, eliminating the Jags from the playoffs, and because of that, the Texans ended up winning the division. And we all had very high expectations for this Jags team, and they failed to meet them tremendously.
Miserably.
Yeah.
Mike Vrabel, like you just said, he went out swinging, so that's something to point out with him. But yeah, what the heck was that? Like, what was the Jags? I mean, just that's my reaction to their entire season this year. Like, what in the world is going on out there?
Yeah, they went from 8-3 in the 1 seed in the AFC to completely missing the playoffs altogether.
Like that. I mean, this was just bad. I mean, that was bad. I don't know how the Jags let that happen. That was bad. That was bad.
Jags fans now know how the Colts felt when they were a winning in scenario 2 years ago in Jacksonville, and the Jags, for lack of a better term, took a dump all over the horseshoe after being the worst team in football. Titans weren't that bad, but I mean, it's still inexcusable from the Jacksonville side of things. I don't know how do you not get your guys ready for this game? Like, know what's at stake. You know the results that have happened prior. The Jags, I think we'll get to them here in a little bit, more in depth, but I mean, wow. Probably the biggest line from this week was Jacksonville completing the collapse out of the postseason.
Yeah. We all expected them to have that kind of Bengals type leap in 2021. And they looked like it for a little bit, but they just had a major collapse. Trevor Lawrence was really disappointing, really the majority of the career. Travis Etienne had a great year, but it was supposed to be like the hype going into preseason was Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley were going to be a great dynamic duo, and they just weren't. And yeah, I think some of the hype on Trevor Lawrence has died down. I still think he's a great quarterback, but he was just not what we expected to see from him coming off of last year's performance. We thought he would take another step, and he backwards. I still think he's a great quarterback, and he'll be fine.
Is he a great quarterback?
Yes,
he's
all right.
I think he's.
I don't think
like top 5, but I still.
No, he's not top 5. But I think you guys are hating on him too much. I think you have been. He's not a top 5 quarterback, no, but he's still their franchise quarterback. He is their guy moving forward.
Yeah,
and he is a good quarterback. I mean, I don't know. He didn't have a great season.
Good, but are you gonna what is his ceiling?
4,000 yards.
I think that the Jags can win a Super Bowl with him.
I mean, we'll see. He was 10th in passing yards, 15th in touchdowns, and a 16th in QBR this year. That is average.
Yeah,
that is average play from a. Here's the thing: I don't think Trevor Lawrence is a bad quarterback. Some people were comparing him to like Jameis Winston. He's not that bad. Jameis Winston wasn't bad, but he's better than Jameis Winston was in Tampa. Yeah. But it's like, what is really his ceiling? Because this is 3 years in the NFL now, and we can only really say that there's been half a season of elite play. from a guy
you have to just not even count the first year because that was the Urban Meyer year.
Well, I mean, yeah, like it was bad. He didn't play well, but most people give him a pass because he had arguably the worst coach in NFL history. That's fair.
Yeah.
The second half or the first half of the second year wasn't much better. But then he turned it on second half of the year, and we all expected him to take a leap to potential MVP conversation this year, and he just didn't. He didn't do that. So I mean, I'm done giving him leeway, right?
I just don't think we should hate on him so much because everybody thought he was going to be a top 5 quarterback this year and be in the MVP conversation, and he wasn't.
I think people think he's a lot better than he actually is because of how he was in college and in high school. CJ Stroud's already better than him.
Yeah.
And he's played 1 year.
I think that we should just give it another year, and if he is average to not very good, then I will start to hop on that train. But dude's only been in the league 3 years, and one of the years is the Urban Meyer year. And last year, he led him to the playoffs.
Yeah, but I mean, I just expected him to take a leap, and he didn't. And it's not like he didn't have talent around him. He had the same exact team plus more.
Yeah, no, I agree. I also expected to see him take a leap, and he didn't, and it was disappointing. But I don't think that we should be saying that he's not who he is just because of that 1 year, you know?
I don't know if he's this generational quarterback that everybody tagged him as coming into the draft.
No, I mean, he's probably not like a Herbert or a Burrow or a Mahomes or an Allen, but he's in the top 10, and I think the Jags can be successful with him.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Justin Herbert, you said it's been 3 years. I'm looking at Justin Herbert's first 3 years in the league, and they blow Trevor Lawrence out of the water.
He also had a competent coach.
Really?
Is Brandon Staley? I mean, Brandon Staley's a lot better than Urban Meyer, but that's not really a high bar to pass. Is he better than Doug Peterson? I'm not quite sure he is.
No, he's not better than Doug Peterson. No, but he's better than Urban Meyer. I think, I don't know. I think Trevor Lawrence is just fine. I think that we should not be going down this rabbit hole when he just came off a playoff run the year before.
All I'm saying is you got a wide receiver 1. You have Christian Kirk. You have Travis Etienne, who's the top back in the league. And he wasn't as good as he was last year. He was disappointing.
I don't disagree.
And there's
I'm not hopping off the train yet.
The Jags had no business missing the playoffs.
No, absolutely not.
It was a very bad year. It was a very they did not have a good year. But I'm just not ready to hop off the train yet. What do you want him to do? Draft a quarterback? Go a different direction?
I'm not saying
I want Trevor Lawrence to start playing better. That's what I want.
I'm not saying you need to draft a quarterback. I'm just saying I don't know if Trevor Lawrence is actually this all-world quarterback that people thought he was going to be.
People were touting him as the best QB prospect since at least Andrew Luck, if not before that.
Well, no, I'm not.
Yes. That's what people were touting him as coming out of college.
I'm not saying that, but I don't think he's I don't think he's like a Sam Howell guy. I think the Jags could win a Super Bowl with him. That is a capable thing that could happen, I think.
He needs to have another good year before I could say that they're Super Bowl contenders with him. I think they're playoff contenders, but I don't know if they can make it to the Super Bowl just yet.
Their time is running out, too. Houston's already surpassed them in terms of production, and Indianapolis is also getting right there. And who knows what's going to happen with the Titans with Will Levis under center. So next year might be a make or break year for the Jaguars. That's all I'm saying.
It's going to be a competitive division, yes. But, that doesn't mean anything. CJ Stroud might be the best quarterback in that division, but that doesn't mean that Trevor Lawrence isn't very good. Look at the AFC North. You've got 2 great quarterbacks. One of them is better than the other, but that doesn't mean the other one's not good. Both of those teams can still have success. I won't even name who I'm talking about because we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. But
I'm just saying I think we need to rethink what we rethink what we think Trevor Lawrence is like, because
maybe reset the expectations a little bit.
Yeah, because we expected him to be
a transcendent
by
franchise
year 3 a top 5 quarterback. Because after year 3, you kind of know who you are as a quarterback.
Yeah,
and he hasn't gotten there yet. Not saying he can't, but as of right now, I think we need to tamper expectations of him being this all-world quarterback that we thought he once was.
I can agree with that. I just don't I can agree with that. Like the expectations were really high. They were really high. It's tough for anybody to meet those expectations. But I do still think that he is their guy and that they can have success with him.
Yes, I agree. I'm just saying we need to tamper expectations on him. That's all I'm saying. And that he was disappointing this year.
Oh, yeah. He was disappointing this year for sure. I don't think
no business missing the playoffs.
I won't disagree with that.
But I'm not saying they need to
no.
rethink their future. They'll be fine. I just don't think Trevor Lawrence is all he was cracked up to be.
Yeah.
All right. What other game meant something? Packers game?
Packers Bears.
I mean, that was an okay game. I don't know.
Or should we just skip shit to Bills Dolphins?
That was a good game. That was
I think we need to talk about Jordan Love.
All right, have at it.
We can talk on it.
He's been Weaver. It was you that said that Jordan Love was going to be better than Mac Jones, and we were like, we're not.
Yeah, this was one of my takes. Okay, so I will admit that this year, not a lot of my takes have hit, and that's just because this year's been garbage and it's been just a very bad year. But this was one that I had that I just absolutely hit the nail on the head there. Jordan Love is a very good quarterback, and I was saying that since the start of the offseason. I know me and Evan had this debate and the car ride up to the Griffith Observatory in Los Angeles for about an hour and a half. And I was saying Jordan Love is talented. He has all the tools he needs. Just wait until he actually gets an opportunity to start. And I even said last year when he did get the opportunity, he played well. So I think he's going to be good. And everyone was like, oh, no. But
we didn't say he wouldn't be good. We just said it wasn't fair to put him above a guy who has played well at the NFL at some point.
I would debate that he even played well ever. But Jordan Love has had a very, very good year this year. I like where the Packers are at a lot with him under center. Yeah. I think that he has done what I expected that he would do, with the exception of a couple of weeks.
He started off really strong,
great.
And then he kind of came back down to earth and then ended really well.
Yeah, he's been really good. He's been playing very, very good football, and this is the right time to do it. Unfortunately, they drew the Cowboys.
Hey, I did just see that the Packers are 9-1 against the Cowboys, I think.
Yeah, I remember the year Dak and Zeke's rookie year. They hosted the
Aaron Rodgers made an insane.
That was an Aaron Rodgers legacy game.
Yeah, that was they hosted Green Bay and they lost to him that year. And I didn't, Cowboys had a really good year that year too. So I don't know. I mean, shoot, who knows, man? The Packers could pull something off. They always could. Jordan Love's playing at a very high level right now. Yeah.
I'm
glad this take hit.
Yeah, Jordan Love finished 7th in passing yards, 2nd in passing touchdowns, top 10 in QBR. And over his last few games, I mean, he's been on a tear since they played the Lions.
Yeah, that was the game. Like the Thanksgiving game against the Lions, that was the game where I was like, all right, this dude,
this guy is actually balling.
He's back.
Yeah.
Like that was a heck of a game against the Lions.
I'm not going to go through every stat line because that would take a little bit. But I mean, against the Bears, he went 27 of 32, 316, and 2 touchdowns. Lost a fumble, but I mean, 84% completion percentage for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns against your arch rival to clinch a playoff spot. That's pretty freaking good.
pretty
for a
good to
guy
me.
here starting in the NFL.
Yeah.
I don't know how the Packers keep lucking in to top end quarterbacks, but they might have found another one for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see if I can find Aaron Rodgers' stat line against the Cowboys.
They were comparable. Like Aaron Rodgers in his first year starting and Jordan Love in his first year starting are very comparable, like statistically.
Yeah, because
wise.
Hold on, let me look at the box. I found it. Let me look at the box score. He didn't have as great of a game I thought. 28-43, 350, 2 touchdowns and a pick, but he had that legacy throw to Jared Cook on the sideline to set up a 51-yard kick for Mason Crosby.
Yeah.
Who knows if we get a repeat of that? But yeah, Jordan Love's playing great. I'm not going to go too much into the Bears because we can debate that all off season.
Yeah.
And we will.
We will debate that all off season. But yeah, credit to the Packers. Jordan Love might be a stud. I don't know how they keep doing it, but they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Love started off hot. First 2 weeks through about 400 yards, 6 touchdowns, 0 picks. Then he kind of cooled off, and through weeks, 3 to like 7 or 8, he had 7 picks to 5 touchdowns. So that was really that's when he kind of peaked down. But then, like I said, since the Thanksgiving game, he has thrown 1 interception since the Chargers game on November 19th. He's thrown 1 pick since then, and he's had every game since then. He's had multiple touchdowns except the game against the Giants, which they ended up losing. So yeah, he's been on a tear. He finished really strong. He was very good throughout most of the year. And yeah, he's definitely their franchise guy. We'll see how he can do in the playoffs against the Cowboys in his first taste of playoff atmosphere. But overall, great season for him, and especially with the wide receivers that they had. Christian Watson wasn't healthy for majority of the year, and when he was disappointing. But a lot of their guys like Dontavian Wicks, he stepped up. Romeo Doubs had a solid season. Jaden Reed played well. So with a lackluster group of receivers, he made the most out of it and ended up second in the league in touchdowns, which is pretty impressive for your first year. So, but the Packers, they do need to get that defense figured out. But offensively, I think they're in a pretty decent spot.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But yes, we were wrong about the Mac Jones. Granted, I did say I expected Jordan Love to be better than him after the season, but I did not expect Jordan Love to be as good as he was. So we'll say that.
Having a heck of a year.
Yeah, very, very good. All right, last game we'll talk about, probably the biggest one. The Bills beat the Dolphins in Miami 21-14 to clinch the AFC East.
This was a very good game. It came down to the last drive of the game, pretty much. I think I said something like this earlier, how the Dolphins just they tend to always be so close, but they can't get the win, against good teams. Josh Allen had another one of those games where it's like, all right, he's turned the ball over a couple times, but he's still clutched up and won him the game when he needed to. This was a very good game, though. You got to question the Dolphins a little bit. You aren't beating good teams.
They didn't have Jalen Waddle or Raheem Mostert in this game, in fairness to Miami.
Yeah, and that hurts, but even when they have them, they still don't win. For the most part. I don't know. It's just it was a good game, though. Good game. Great win for the Bills. Bills are hot. That's all I got.
Yeah, we talked about both the Bills and the Dolphins more in depth in our playoff predictions. But I mean, the Bills, I said this earlier, they find ways to win without playing their best, and they haven't done that in years past. So that's the biggest takeaway from this game. And I'll give credit to Sean McDermott because this team, after they lost to Denver in mid-November, looked dead in the water. And we said we didn't know if the Bills were going to make the playoffs because of the schedule they had down the stretch. They beat the Chiefs. They eviscerate the Cowboys. They beat the Chargers, the Bills, go to Miami, beat the Dolphins, and win the division. And now are one of the favorites to make the Super Bowl. I think you got to give Sean McDermott a lot of credit. I also think you've got to give their defense, particularly their front seven, a lot of credit with the likes of Ed Oliver and company stepping up when Josh Allen turns the ball over because he's doing that once a game now, minimum. Josh Allen is the most head-scratching quarterback I've seen in a while because, he's a top 5 quarterback.
But he is a turnover machine.
Yeah, it's similar to like Brett Favre and John Elway, where their stats don't leap off the page, but you watch them play and you're like, this guy is elite at what he does. And this is a guy that can win you a Super Bowl, no doubt.
Yeah, for sure.
So we'll see what the Bills do in the postseason. The Chiefs are having a down year, so for guys like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, for teams like the Browns and the Dolphins, this might be a time to strike while the guard of the AFC is down, I would say. So we'll see what legacy they create this postseason, but it'll be interesting to watch for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, I think this game was lost because of Tua. He had that game-ending pick, obviously, and he made some mistakes that cost him the game. But granted, yes, they didn't have Waddle or Mostert. But this big win for the Bills. Josh Allen didn't play the cleanest game, which we're become accustomed to, but found a way to win, nonetheless. Against a really good divisional opponent and probably a team that they could very well see again in the playoffs. But yeah, I think we talked about it a lot in the playoff predictions, but kind of just to reiterate that, the Bills' balance on offense with their rushing attack with Josh Allen and Dalvin Cook.
James Cook,
I meant, my bad. Wrong brother. And then that receivers with, Gabe Davis has a game every 4 games where he's unreal. Stephon Diggs, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, all those guys. Yeah, big win for the Bills, big confidence booster going into the playoffs. The Dolphins, yeah, we'll see. They haven't been able to really beat good teams, and going into Arrowhead will be tough. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for that game. All right, were we going to do biggest surprises and disappointment of
yeah,
the
we'll do our biggest surprise and biggest disappointment.
I got to think about my biggest surprise.
23.
Nick, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'll start. I'm not going to talk
surprise first.
Yeah, we'll do surprise first.
Okay.
Biggest surprise of 2023 for me was the Houston Texans, and I think that's very clearly what everyone's number one biggest surprise should be off of this year. A team that went 3-14, I think it was last season. Fired their head coach. They didn't have a ton of pieces outside of Derek Stingley. You come in, you draft the guy that I don't even think Houston was going to take if they traded up to number 1. I think they were going to draft Bryce Young. So they kind of lucked into C.J. Stroud there. He turns into one of the best rookie quarterbacks we've ever seen. Nico Collins emerges as a true wide receiver 1. Devin Singletary proves himself to be a reliable running back in the backfield. Tank Dell proved to be a hit. They knock a draft out of the park, and they go 10-7, win the AFC South, and are hosting a playoff game. D'Amico Ryan's in the running for Coach of the Year, rightfully so. I think we all said when he was hired that was a pretty slam dunk hire for the Texans and their culture. And like we said, it's been remarkable what Houston has done. I thought I was going to have to worry about Jacksonville for the next 15 years, but now we've got to add the Texans into that.
Well, guess what? It's Houston, baby.
We got to worry about the Texans in that pot as well. So, yeah, my biggest surprise of this year was the Texans for sure. And, yeah.
I think there was a lot of things that surprised me this year, but the first thing that kept coming to mind when I thought surprise was the Cleveland Browns. They finished with 11 wins. That's crazy. And they are the most injured team in the NFL, and yet they won 11 games, bringing Joe Flacco out of retirement, and Joe Flacco is their best quarterback. He is better than Deshaun Watson.
He's been the best quarterback for Cleveland maybe since they became a franchise again.
In a long time. A very long time.
That's not even hyperbole. It's
He
crazy.
already passed Johnny Manziel in passing yards.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that to me has been the biggest surprise this year. Like I know people have been saying the Browns have the pieces to be good, but I just never thought they'd put it together because of the Cleveland Browns. But they have put it together. I think Kevin Stefanski is going to win Coach of the Year this year. And I mean, if you watch our episode from earlier, I have the Browns in the AFC Championship. This has been my surprise for sure. Joe Flacco leading the Browns to 11 wins. That's crazy. And now the Bengals have another. Well, I guess they've really always been there because the Browns always beat the Bengals. I was going to say the AFC North is just even tougher.
Yeah. I'm going to go a bit of a different direction with my surprise. Probably outside of the Texans, this is probably the biggest surprise of the NFL this season, and that is the emergence of Puka Nacua. 5th-round pick from BYU, just broke the rookie receiving and yards record, finished 4th in the league in yards, top 10 in receptions. Nobody had heard of this guy. Coming into the draft, I think he graded out as one of the worst athletic scores we've seen from a receiver. It was really bad. But the Rams took a chance on him and it paid off. Him and Matthew Stafford clicked immediately coming into the season when Cooper Kupp was absent. And we thought maybe when Cooper Kupp comes back, he'll kind of take a step back. But he didn't. He showed that he was wide receiver 1 material, and now the Rams have 2 wide receiver 1s in him and Cooper Kupp. And just a phenomenal season from Puka Nacua that nobody expected to really have. I mean, breaking 2 rookie receiving records as a 5th-round pick that nobody had any idea who you were is pretty impressive. Once again, Matthew Stafford's the quarterback for record-breaking receiving seasons. Seems to always be the thing. But outside of the Texans, I would say that's probably the biggest surprise for me was Puka Nacua's emergence.
Yeah, I was thinking about the Rams, but I think the emergence of Puka Nacua is probably a better way to put that. Because after they won the Super Bowl, we were like, okay, the Rams are probably going to fall off. The only way they could salvage it is by hitting on late-round draft picks.
And they did.
They hit with Kyron Williams, and they hit a grand slam, it looks like, with Puka Nacua. So they might be around for a few more years.
Kyron Williams is another big surprise.
I appreciated that one.
Yeah, I appreciate Puka as well.
Yeah, brother.
All right, Nick, biggest disappointment.
Biggest disappointment for me this year is sticking in the AFC South. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars.
This is going to be all of ours.
The Jags, I had the Jaguars in the Super Bowl.
You did.
Before the season started. I was the highest on them out of any person here. And it was looking all right halfway through the season when they were 8-3. And they decided to stop playing football from that point on. I thought that maybe they were like not as good of a team as I thought they were, but never in my wildest dreams did I think they would miss the playoffs this year. And they don't. It's not like they had a ton of injuries either. Trevor Lawrence was hurt. He missed, what was it, a game with the ankle injury?
Yeah.
Against Cincinnati.
Calvin Ridley missed a couple of games.
Yeah, Calvin Ridley missed a couple of games, but it's not like they were like decimated with injuries like the Bengals or the Jets or the Browns, even though they still won 11 games. They just didn't execute in a level that I think they should have, and they had no reason to not execute at that level. And their future could be in flux. I mean, we'll see what they do next season if they have a bounce back year, but I don't know what to expect from them going in the near future, personally.
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and piggyback right off that. The Jags were my biggest disappointment. I've been extremely high on them all offseason as well. And Trevor Lawrence didn't perform. We talked about that for a very long time just a little bit ago. I don't know what the heck this was, honestly. They were bad for no reason. It wasn't injuries. I don't think it was coaching. I don't know what the heck happened. They just were bad this year. So that was a shocker and a surprise to me. I mean, I guess just to say something else, to be a little bit different, since Nick already said the Jags, I could say the Bengals. The Bengals were extremely disappointing to me this year. But at least there was a reason for that. At least they were decimated by injuries all year. But, looking back on the offseason, this was the year that I had Burrow winning the MVP and Chase being in the Offensive Player of the Year runnings, and I had the Bengals winning the Super Bowl this year. So, obviously, as you know now, none of those three things even came close to happening. So that was extraordinarily disappointing this year. I waited 6 months of an offseason to get this crap of a year out of the NFL. So that was disappointing, to say the least, really. But at least, like I said, at least there was a reason. At least they were decimated by injuries. The Jags were bad for no reason. So I don't know which one's worse, but I'm very disappointed in both of those teams this year.
Yeah, my disappointing team is going to be the Chargers. They went from a playoff team that people thought could make a playoff run to now having a top 5 pick. And you still have Justin Herbert. Austin Eckler missed time in the beginning of the year, but when he came back, he was just not good. Keenan Allen had a good season. He had a better season, probably his best season he's had in a while, but he got hurt late. Mike Williams got hurt. So, I mean, there were reasons, but you have, I mean, Khalil Mack ended top 5 in sacks. And they were still one of bottom tier defense.
Yeah, I don't even think that even if they had Mike Williams and Austin Eckler return for, I don't think that would have saved them.
No.
They were just out of sorts the entire year.
This was a coaching issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, I mean, for a team that was in the playoffs that had in half of the game was looking like they were going to move on. And I'm sure a lot of people probably picked them to probably go to the AFC Championship or make a decent run, and they just took a crap. They just crapped the bed and ended up with the top 5 pick. And like we said, the future's a little bleak. I mean, you have Justin Herbert, but not a whole lot of cap space there. You got a new coach you got to figure out. So I think they've been pretty disappointing, because you think with Justin Herbert you're at least going to make the playoffs, but they've
only done it once.
Far away from making the playoffs. So I would say,
the Chargers
outside of the Jags, they're one of the more disappointing teams.
The Chargers were awful and very disappointing, but I do think at least they do have I think that there is hope there still. I think they've got pieces. They just got to get a coach.
Also, I will not let this slide. What the hell was that in Carolina this year?
Yeah, that was terrible.
Like, I understand you get.
And then we had them winning the division.
No, I had them winning the division.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Well, we had them close.
Oh, no. I had the Saints. That was interesting too. But no, the
Saints
Panthers
were
were off.
awful.
Saints went 9-8.
They're very well could have won the division.
Yeah,
So they were one game out, probably.
But I had Carolina. I thought Bryce Young would be the best quarterback in the division by the end of the year. What the hell was what? That might be one of the worst offenses I have ever seen at the NFL level. Like, maybe them winning the division, making playoffs might have been a bolder take, but I think people expected them to at least win like 6 or 7 games.
Take a step forward. But
Yeah.
dude,
They
are kicking themselves for not taking Stroud. And I told you guys they would be.
They beat the Texans 13-12, and they beat the Falcons 9-7 in a monsoon. That was it.
Look up how many games they had where they did not score a single point.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna look this up real quick. I will refuse to let this slide.
But I think there was 2 or 3 games where they did not score.
They really should have. They should have took. I am happy for his sake that they didn't, but they should have took Stroud.
Yeah. But yeah, no, they're a dumpster fire.
They got shut out their last 2 games.
This is the worst position.
How many games
to be in.
total did
They only got shut out 2 games, but I mean 10 points against the Falcons, 13 against the Vikings.
How did you get shut out by the
13
Falcons?
against the Colts, 13 against the Bears, 10 against the Cowboys, 10 against the Titans, 6 against the Saints, 9 against the Falcons. That's basically a loss. And then they got shut out by the Jags and the Bucks. Like,
good heavens.
It's how much hold on. What's their points per game?
They were awful.
Go to stats.
They average 14 points a game.
Oh my god.
But see, the issue is that they sold their souls for Bryce Young. So they are in a hole.
That has to be bottom of the league, right? Surely.
That's probably work. That's probably the last. Either them or probably like the Steelers.
This has to be.
I think the Bryce Young trade very well could go down, and in like a couple years is the worst trade.
I mean, we'll see.
Yeah,
I think Bryce Young still has to have a fair
I'm not giving up on Bryce Young, but as of right
the
now,
amount that they gave up to get him is
he gave up DJ
ridiculous.
Moore, who's a wide receiver 1 at 25, and more than likely Caleb Williams.
like that is ridiculous.
And like there's still 3 or 4 more picks attached to that. Plot.
They gave up a haul to get the wrong guy.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is everybody in the Panthers organization wanted Stroud except the owner, and the owner trumped them all.
And also their owner is just a terrible person.
Yeah, that franchise is
He
a
threw a
freaking
drink at a
dumpster fire.
Jags fan.
Yeah, like this, they are in complete disarray. The Jags were still more disappointing because I was really high on the Jaguars, but I will not let that slide.
Like
That
it
was
was,
bad,
like it
dude.
was one
That
of
was really
those.
bad.
It's like that. What's that saying? Like we didn't expect much, but
Yeah.
Our expectations were low for you,
Yeah.
but holy curse word.
I saw that post. Year I saw it was for the Bengals. It was the year the Bengals won 2 games. And they lost to the Ravens like 56-0 or whatever.
that pretty much sums up the Panthers season.
Yeah,
I didn't
that's
expect them to set the world on fire,
really
but wow, were they really bad?
That is exactly that sums it up. That really does sum it up.
Yeah, no,
They were terrible.
I had to bring that up.
no, yeah.
I'm
And
not
their
I'm glad
future is like they don't have a bright future at all. They're in a really bad position for a while.
You better pray that Bryce Young starts showing some things. Granted,
Even if he does, they have nothing around
a
him.
wide receiver, but
Yeah, like I mean, even if Bryce Young does show up to be an average NFL quarterback, they have nothing around him and they don't have any assets to get anyone around him.
they're probably gonna have to trade like Brian Burns and stuff to get assets.
Yeah, to recover from this absolutely horrendous trade they did.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up though. That was a good one.
Yeah, the Jags were more disappointing just because of how high the expectations were, but the Panthers they were just like
They're
unbelievable.
probably one of the worst teams I've seen since the Bengals won and that 2 and whatever it was, 14 Bengals, 15.
Yeah.
and then the 0-16 Browns.
I was just about to say the 0-16 Browns. I think those are the three worst teams that I remember in recent history. Those three teams right there.
At one point, a ticket to go to a Panthers game was 45 cents.
That doesn't shock me at
That's
all,
when we know it's
honestly.
bad.
Yeah, the 0-16 Browns, the 2-14 Bengals, and this year's Panthers are probably the three worst NFL teams that I can remember in recent history.
The Panthers don't even get rewarded for being terrible.
No.
The Bears
The Bears get rewarded.
The Bears get rewarded. So the Bears were winning games at the end of the year, but it didn't matter.
The Bears
it wasn't hurting their draft stock because they literally had the number one pick got locked week 15.
Yeah, the Bears
got locked in.
Yeah, the Bears egregiously fleeced the Panthers. This was a trade. This was an awful trade. This was a really bad trade. This was a trade on the level of me and John's fantasy trade senior year of high school.
I think this trade is like Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce to the Celtics. Or to the Nets, excuse me, from the Celtics, where the Nets literally traded their entire future for two aging guys who retire in the next 3 years. And then the Celtics team that you see now is large in part to the Brooklyn Nets.
That's so stupid.
So that's what I think. If the Bears play their cards right, I think we'll have that same situation where one team will be in shambles and the other team will be profiting very nicely due to one singular move.
Yeah, I agree with that, Evan.
But yeah, they definitely have been disappointing.
Very, very, very bad. Very bad.
Yeah. I was hoping you were going to say the Bengals.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
it's disappointing because this was the year that everybody had expectations for them, and this is the most the AFC has been open.
Yeah,
but
it was more so unlucky than anything.
Yeah, that's probably a better way to say it. It's more unlucky.
I mean, I was pretty dang disappointed.
No, I mean, I was disappointed.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're going to be disappointed, but I mean, it's going to be a critical offseason for Cincinnati for sure. They got to figure out what they want to do with T. Higgins, Joe Mixon, etc.
I mean, it's more so like I said, it's I'm disappointed, but at least we were bad for a reason. There was a reason that
unlike the Jags just being bad just because they were
bad.
Poor execution.
Yeah. But no, yeah, this is definitely a critical offseason for the Bengals. They got a lot of pieces that they're going to have to figure out. Hopefully they can sign T. Higgins long term. I don't think they will. I think they're going to tag him. They'll get Chase long term. It's going to be an interesting offseason for sure.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that, I'm sure. Time.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Let us know what you guys thought. Let us know who your biggest disappointments and surprises were and where you think some of these head coaches are going to go. Make sure to check out our playoff predictions, which will either be posted before or after this. I'm not sure, but make sure to check those out because, it's playoff time. NFL season's winding down, sadly, but that means the offseason. I'm in offseason mode because the Bengals are in the playoffs, so I'm already starting to do mock drafts and all that jazz. So we'll get into that here shortly. But before that, we got some playoff football to watch, which will be fun.
So, yeah.
So yeah, that's gonna wrap it up. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys next one. Peace. Good crap.
Is anybody hopping on Madden at all?
I am.
It is midnight. I have class tomorrow.